Hey y'all, welcome back to the Sun Show post week 3. We have a special guest this week, ex-Commissioner Humpy, who's going to bring some magical insight onto his run so far this season. We can have Solo get started, but before we get started, I will say we are the only podcast that does not have an attorney as a host and no ties to Benedict Arnold for those who are keeping score at home. All right, Slow, take it away.
Yeah. First game this week, the game of the week, was Chattanooga at Bethune-Cookman. Bethune-Cookman wins that game 27-10, pretty much dominating Chattanooga. It's a domination even though it's 17 points because they were both trying to chew the clock. So, not as many points when both teams are trying to eat up clock. But Bethune-Cookman keeping both of the previous player of the weeks total passing and took complete control of the second half. Chatty's first big test in conference, and it wasn't a great showing for him. But Bethune-Cookman is the number 1 team in the country, so no shame in losing to them. But yeah, well, we'll see if Chatty can turn it around next week.
Yeah, I know it was not many plays in this game, not many offensive plays, but I think we should really give credit to Chatty for keeping Pello under 30. You know, he's been dropping a lot of points so far, but Bethune-Cookman was just too strong and really shut down Chattanooga. So it was a good, strong showing.
Yeah, it was interesting to see Chatty with a new offensive look this year on the air raid. I was excited to see how he would fare against the 5-2, kind of front seven that Pellet was providing. Really proved to be too much for Brian Markson and Chatty, but Chatty's still very much in it in the dusk right now, and like I said, no shame losing the number 1 team in the country. Chatty still has a very bright season ahead of him.
Yeah.
Next, we can go into my game, Alabama A&M at Mercer. So, if you guys had seen the show or the channel earlier this week, this was one of the toughest games that I've played so far in FCFB in my time here. Maybe second to the conference championship game versus Judge last year. Rico is a wizard at times. He got out to an early lead. I was able to rattle off 21 points in the second quarter. I was able to take advantage of a long drive and score, and then Rico quickly turned the ball over in his own territory, and I got a quick touchdown again, take the lead, kind of turn the tides a little bit. And then I got the ball with like 90 seconds to go in the first half, and I scored to try to keep that momentum going my way because I was going to receive the ball in the second half as well. For those of you who are watching at home, this game went all the way to Saturday. We both had pretty crazy schedules, and for the entirety of the fourth quarter, it seemed like the ball was in my own red zone. So I couldn't. Rico was knocking on the doorstep for the entirety of the time. I couldn't leave. He had to kick a 55-yard field goal to bring the game within 4 points. It was back and forth to the very end. I think Rico is going to hang with the best of the teams in the Dawn. I know, losing the cross-divisional game early in the season is tough, especially when in a division as tough as the Dawn. But he could, spoil some seasons. And I still think he has a lot of gas left in the tank. He can make a run. He can very easily make a run right now. And I hope that he puts the rest of the Dawn on blast because he is a tough out. I will say that.
Yeah, we have a week that's 10 days for a reason, and we're appreciative to be able to watch close games towards the end. That fourth quarter was great, and way to go, Ampersand there, getting all those points in the second quarter. I agree with you with Mercer. Uncle Rico has every shot still available to him in the Dawn, even with all of the 5-3-0 teams that are there. In conference play, anything can happen, and he's still right in the thick of things. So it'll be interesting to see.
I never liked playing Mercer. Never liked playing anybody in this conference, but for some reason, Uncle Rico just percent said, just keeps you on edge. And it takes 4 days for you to figure out whether or not that quarter went your way, and it takes years off of your fake life.
Oh, yeah. And
Beat me with a fourth quarter touchdown last year, so that wasn't fun.
you get your exact revenge this next upcoming week. So
Yeah.
it's your time. Next, we're gonna let Humpy go into his game versus Alabama State.
This was the scoreboard doesn't show it, but I did not feel like this game was under control until late. Just because every time Alabama State got the ball, they would rip off a 30 or a 40 or a 60-yard pass. If you look at the yards in this game, you can see that, they had 330 yards and I had 380, which is why I think I didn't get Sunny D. But the turnovers, I forced 3 turnovers inside of my own red zone. That really saved the day for us. As far as from a defensive standpoint, it's nice to score points, but you can't score points if you can't play defense. So a shout out to Turk. They're not an easy win. Like I said, despite what the scoreboard says or what their record shows, it's not something you can just mindlessly put numbers in like maybe Samford against week 1. You really have to pay attention to Turk because they'll catch you off guard. I think I even dropped a punt or had a punt blocked, one of the two, where it really caught me off guard at the very beginning, and I didn't recognize the pattern or what I thought was a pattern. So I'm proud of the defense on this one. I almost put up 2 different defensive players for Player of the Week, but Earl really carried us on the ground this week, so that's why I sent him in submission for the week.
Yeah, you've always. Even in last season as well, you've had a high flying offense. I think you might have had the best combined passing and rushing offense last season. What about your defense this year has really stepped up to help you start off undefeated and especially hold off a Turks team who's been known to be a giant slayer at times, knocking off ranked teams? What was really the key?
Well, yeah, if you look at Alabama State, 50 points last week against Merrimack, so not a slouch of an offense by any means. I really just think it was the turnovers, and it was the turnovers after maybe giving up a big play kind of motivated the defense to kind of get their heads back around and figure it out. We gave up a touchdown early, and then we got a little bit of a lead, and I think we got comfortable and gave up another touchdown. And so it was really, I don't want to give away too much, but just changing up the way the defense looks at the opposition. Really, the turnovers last week 2 against Maine were what really got us back in there. We were even on turnovers against Maine, but it was the turnover touchdowns that really changed that one. Whereas with Alabama State, it was just kind of stopping that drive down the field after giving up a big play and keeping them out of the end zone enough times to give us a lead.
I'll say this as many times as I get the chance to say it. Alabama State was the toughest game, most stressful game I had last season, and so this really just goes to Campbell's credit here, being able to win by such a margin. And as you'll see with our power rankings later, I think Campbell's not getting the respect they deserve with the offense that they have. Just being able to limit mistakes here after the second half against Maine last week, they're really on a roll, and the offense is something to be reckoned with and something that every ASUN team should fear.
Well, last thing I'll say is only giving up 21 points in the last 6 quarters. So the defense has come out strong, and I'm hoping we carry that into next week, and I have more to say about that later in the show.
Great. Awesome.
Yeah. Good showing for you, Campbell. And another defeated team has fallen. Not undefeated anymore. But I think Dirk can turn it around somewhat. At least I don't think he'll be as bad as last year. He's already started off way better, so I think he'll have a good season still. And turn around. Bad loss. This was like if it was close, it wouldn't be a bad loss, but that many points is kind of a bad loss.
Yeah, people forget that Turk beat Stetson when Stetson was actually still pretty invested at the end of the season last year. Beat him by 1 point. So Turk is not someone to just write off on your schedule.
Oh yeah, 36-35. He's kind of a sleeping giant. I think he's ready to weaponize any moment.
And he's his move from the dawn to the dusk in the offseason, I think really plays in his favor. I think in our division you can kind of afford to lose a game or two and still hang right around in the division. And I still think he's very much a player to be a potential dark horse for the conference championship for sure.
Yeah. Dusk is unforgiving this season, isn't it? But we still got plenty of season left and plenty of time for Alabama State or any other team to separate themselves. Move on to the next game, or
Yep. Go ahead.
Yep.
Okay. We got a good one. I guess you 35-34. So this game was a little crazy. I got up to a 20-7 lead early in the second. That last touchdown had a extra point miss, so that was fun. But then in the second, and then it came back and got up to a 28-20 lead. But then I blocked a field goal and was able to tie it by doing the same number twice, 2 times in a row. It didn't work the first time, but it worked the second time. And then got the 2-point conversion. So 28-28 all. I stopped him. Oh, no. I went for the onside kick. I decided to see if I could, instead of giving the ball back with a minute left, I decided to see if I could take the ball back to win the game. And I managed to get the onside kick.
That was crazy. I remember that.
So I got the ball at my own 45, and I managed to drive down the field and get a touchdown. So I'm up, and he has 18 seconds left. Well, I stopped him. I think it was the 2 or 3 plays, and then I got lazy with 1 second left and put in 420, and it was a 0. So yeah, that was great. And he decided this was not the time for time. So he went for 2. And I went 420 again, and he didn't expect it and didn't get the 2-point conversion. So that's how I won 35-34. But yeah,
It's
crazy
amazing
game.
that blocked field goal. That blocked field goal ended up being the difference. You win by 1 instead of he's up by 3 or 2 once he scores that touchdown.
Yeah,
and it changed you too, because you would have had to go for 2 or try to do another onside or something like that.
Definitely that. Keeping him from extending his lead a little more definitely kept me in the game and gave me a chance. So, yeah, crazy game. Glad to come out with a win. But it's the same record I started out with last season, so there's a lot of work to do.
Yeah, that took a lot of guts to take that onside kick that you did. But this game just goes to show that these were two very talented coaches on each side, and credit to the winner, of course, for taking care of business. But it's games like these that make me very hopeful for this conference and just the talent we have. And well done on the win there.
Yeah, definitely. As the first conference game to get to play with Nutt, he's what are some takeaways? How do you feel about his play style? He definitely seems to be a force to be reckoned with, and especially in the Ducks, if not in the entire conference. What are your thoughts about the new coach?
Yeah, he's pretty smart. He in the beginning, I found the pattern, and that's how I got to my 20-7 lead. But I'm not sure if he noticed it himself or just subconsciously changed his pattern. But for most of the second quarter and the third and like half the fourth, I couldn't do anything against him. He completely changed his pattern. Finally managed to figure it out enough to get those last 15 points I needed to win the game. But he figured his own pattern out or just subconsciously changed his pattern. I don't know. But he's smart. He knows what he's doing. And I got a little lucky here.
Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good.
Yeah.
All right, moving right along to the next game. Another tightly contested battle, Jacksonville versus UNA. Two of the newest, I guess, aside from Nutt, two of the newer coaches in A-Sun, Purple and Wally. Both of them winless, looking to get their first win, first conference win too, I believe, between the both of them. Both teams' defenses really showed out here. Final score 21-19, Northern Alabama. Both teams forced 3 turnovers. Both teams have really solid passing defense. It's one that just goes to show. I still think Purple he's right there on the verge of popping off. Sometimes I feel like he's had the unfortunate task of having to play two really solid teams, and UNA is also very solid as well, but two really solid teams that have been around for a while. So sometimes you have the benefit of being able to scout your opponent. I think here, Wally being a new coach, sometimes you get a little bit of you get unlucky with the fact that he's a new coach and you don't have a lot of material to look back on to kind of check out his play style. I think that's what happened here. He got up early and Purple scored every quarter, but it just wasn't enough at the end of the day. Had some of those field goals that he kicked turned into touchdowns, this would be a totally different game. But Wally did what he needed to do in that first half to hold off Purple. I think this was, like I said, I still think Purple is right there. And I hope he doesn't take this one too hard on the chin. I think he's in a tough division, but he's played really, really good opponents really well. And there's no shame in losing this game. This was just a tight battle.
Yeah, I think Purple definitely wins game this season because he has 2 more out of conference games and another Dusk division game ahead of him. So there's at least 3 chances for a win.
I like that. Yeah. I don't want to add anything more. We've said it all year, and there's nothing really you can say to make it better. But he's been on the cusp. He's been on the cusp of finally winning, and you just got to take away. This is just a fake football game, and a lot of times you're just submitting numbers, and sometimes it's just statistics. And I'd like to think this is an outlier. All credit to UNA there. Wally's done a good job coming in mid-season after week 1, and so this is a really good game between two coaches that are better than their record shows, and I'm looking forward to see how UNA does now that they've got a head start on the rest of the division, minus Alabama A&M. And, Jacksonville showed a lot of heart in the second half coming back. So, yeah.
Yeah. Tough game for Jacksonville. Still plenty of season left. Not out of it yet. Just a couple more. And he'll be ready for go on a little run. Probably that first game he wins will get him the momentum he needs to lost 2 or 3 or 4 in a row. So stick it out, get that first one, and you'll be primed.
If there is a silver lining, Jacksonville did scrimmage Youngstown State after the week was over, and he actually did win pretty handily. So, you say what you want about scrimmages during the week, but I got blown out by Youngstown State week 1. So, there's that's something to remember going into next week is he beat him pretty handily, and I think that could be the push that he needs to get him over the hump or over the cusp. And Northern Alabama is also quietly co-lead in the Dusk right now.
Yeah, you make a good point about scrimmages. I really do believe that they can be confidence boosters. They might not be a good judge of quality because some people might not take them as seriously, but they're definitely confidence boosters. And if you do well, it can do wonders for you. So that's good to see.
How'd your game go?
Yeah, I guess we'll move into my game. So Kennesaw State defeats Jacksonville State 34-23. This is the second and final appearance for Baba at Jacksonville State in the absence of Matt. We're very happy to have Matt back after this week and look forward to seeing him moving forward. But yeah, this was a game where I was certain in the first half that I was going to lose. This was a repeat of last season. Baba was at Savannah State and they faced off against my Kennesaw State Owls in week 3 and beat me 24-10. So there was a little bit of a revenge factor here. I believe I got the ball first, and Jacksonville State quickly got a touchdown. I believe they got a pick 6. I answered, but I yelled it and was down by 1 point after the first quarter. And it was just the first part of this game was dominated by the Gamecocks. It was tough going for my guys, and I think Baba mentioned in the Discord he typically plays pretty streaky, and I would say the same about my play style. After JSU went out on their first streak, my second streak in the middle of the game went in my favor. Reeled off a few touchdowns in a row and was quickly up 34-16 in the third quarter. I was quite shocked by that. I was not feeling good at halftime. Going against an option team is always tough, but we were able to make some key 3-and-outs in the second half, and the defense really stood tall. We've had to lean on the offense in the first 2 weeks, but here in week 3, KSU defense really stood up tall, and while he may have got some success in garbage time, I was very happy with the performance, and is something to build on going into conference play after 1 week.
Yeah, that's not tough to do. Stopping an option offense when they get going. I will say I've faced 2 option teams in week 2, and once they get momentum, it's hard to stop that train, especially with a seasoned option veteran like at a program like Jacksonville State. Team and coach is very familiar with the option. So yeah, all the props in the world to you for being able to stop him and that particular type of offense in a scenario where it was a streak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in the second and third quarter, I left myself vulnerable. There, and he had the chance to go on some drives, but just some clutch numbers sealed it.
Now, Judge, you lost the turnover battle and the time of possession battle. Do you think was just your offense that kind of came through for you?
Yeah, it really was the defense that came through. So that one turnover was at the very beginning of the game. I threw a pick six and put me in the hole early. As far as time of possession, it really came down to the fact where the third quarter, on the graphic I show on the screen, the third quarter I held JSU to no points, and I got the 3 and outs there. And it turns out in the fourth quarter, Jacksonville State moved the ball quite well, but since they're an option offense and they weren't really hurrying or anything, that's kind of what led to the time of possession being lopsided. Our defense was really the credit to that. Being able to get stops without relying on turnovers, just being able to be steady and get stops.
Yeah, good win. Baba kept JSU afloat while Matt was, and we'll see how both teams do in the future. We got plenty of season left. Excited for both teams. JSU was my pick for the Dust Division, so Matt better turn it around.
It's got plenty of time.
Yeah.
I think all things considered, Baba did a good job standing in for Matt. Kennesaw State, hot team right now, number 2 in the country. Don't forget, Jacksonville State beat Incarnate Word last pretty handily, like I said, rematch in a playoff game last year. I think he's, they're 1-2, tough loss to Maine week 1 with Matt at the helm, but I think Baba leaves the team in much better straits than somebody else who might have been a temporary sub. So I think Baba's helped Matt out a little bit, I think.
Yeah. Final. Actually, the first game to finish. Stetson beating Samford 47-17. I thought Samford was going to ride that momentum they got from week 1 a little longer. But the Stetson Hatters stopped that momentum right in its tracks. Hatters went crazy, running for over 300 yards, and got 3 absolutely crushing turnovers. Option offense just got the lead early and kept pounding the ball, especially in the third quarter, getting 20 points. So Samford couldn't stop the run and couldn't keep the momentum going on offense. So tough loss for the Samford Bulldogs, while a great win for the Stetson Hatters.
Yeah, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I called this one. You really got to stay attentive at all times when you're playing Stetson, and I don't think this will. I think Samford can still have a great season. Of course, like we say, it's still early, but Stetson really showed out here, and I feel like this is a real statement game. They want to put themselves on the map after a struggling season last season. This was their first chance. They had a top 10 team that they were going to go visit in Birmingham, and they took advantage of it, and they were ready to play. So it was a great win.
Yeah, not take anything away from Samford. Stetson's a great coach. Don't look now, but Stetson has arguably the toughest 5-game stretch, probably of any team in the country right now. Play a top 10 team in Samford this week. Number 2, Kennesaw State next week. Probably going to be a top 5 team in Northern Colorado week 5. Florida A&M could be a top 10 team by week 6, and then Campbell already a top 5 team week 7. I don't know if there's a tougher stretch of teams or opponents. And I'm glad that he was able to start off this stretch with a decisive victory. He's going to be a contender for the Dawn by the end of the year. I still think even through this crazy stretch of games. And so far he's taking care of business. And hats off to the Hatters. I think he's just doing what he's getting everything done that he has.
Haha, Hats off.
Hey,
Yeah, if Stetson can go, have a winning record during that stretch, especially if all 3 wins come, it will be set up nicely, probably at the top of the division. So, yeah, I think toughest opponents are right in front of them, and might be make or break part of the season for Stetson.
Go check time.
every time I look at the dawn, I physically close my eyes and shake my head because
Same here, man. It's
I
gonna
don't
be,
know what's gonna happen.
yeah, it's gonna be so brutal. Who knows what's gonna happen?
Speaking of that, will I move in the standings, or did we already do that? I missed it.
Yeah, we can move on to the standings now if you want.
Okay, yeah.
Let's go ahead.
Yes, we already kind of talked about it. So,
Yeah, I can take this if you want.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we'll start with the Dusk here. We've had 1 week of conference play, and they were all interdivisional matchups, so it'll be pretty clean here. The Dusk got 2 wins. Those were Alabama A&M and North Alabama, so they sit atop the division. Alabama State, Chattanooga, ETSU, Samford, and Jacksonville State are tied for 3rd place or last, however you want to call it. But so yeah, that's where it stands right now in the Dusk. Still a long way to go. I think you can tell from last season. It's good to get on the right foot. It's good to get on the right foot, but it doesn't really. If you lose, you don't get yourself in too big of a hole. So it'll be fun to see. We'll move over to the Dawn division, and this is where the gauntlet comes in. Campbell mentioned it's just not fun to look at. We've got Bethune-Cookman, Campbell, Florida A&M, Kennesaw State, and Stetson all tied for first with a 1-0 record in conference and 3-0 overall. These are all teams that are going to be ranked highly, 3 of which might be in the top 5. Maybe more. Who knows? Probably not. I'd be willing to guess they're not. And then with losses this past week are Mercer and Jacksonville. Mercer sitting there at 2-1, Jacksonville at 0-3 overall. Still time to move up. But yeah, that's where the standings lie right now.
You know,
I
the
wanna-
schedule. Oh, I'm sorry, Ant.
No, go ahead.
Schedule's a bit of an anomaly because last 2 seasons, both seasons, we've started conference play with cross division play. Because without the, I'm not going to say the word, but the system that some people like, you have to play 6 people, from your division and then 2 people from the other one. So it's weird because you start conference play, but you almost have a free game to lose. And so you can kind of get used to the intensity of playing your conference while having a little bit of leeway, because if you win your division, then you're going to the conference championship game.
yeah.
Yeah, and I kind of like it because it's kind of just it's a buffer, like you said. You have the non-con, but then this game, it still definitely counts for the conference record. But if you still go on and beat everyone in your division, it doesn't really matter. That's kind of what happened to me last year. I lost my first game of the conference schedule, and then I went and beat everyone in the division. So that avenue is still open for all of these teams, and it's still wide open. So there's nobody really in the driver's seat yet.
That kind of lends itself to the question that I was going to ask. Of the 0-1 teams that you guys see here, which team do you guys think has the best opportunity to make a run to the conference championship game this year?
Ooh.
I'll go Jacksonville State and Mercer. I'll take one from each side. Mercer is, as we'll get to later, is still criminally underrated. And Jacksonville State getting Matt back, one of the better coaches, I still think has.
Yeah, this might be a little too meta, but I think Patty or ETSU has the best shot at it because Jacksonville State is still adjusting to some stuff in their personal life, and Mammy's pretty distracted with a wife now and stuff. And I just think ETSU is getting ready to graduate, so they're going to have like a summer of just working and playing fake football. And I think Chatty's kind of dialed in. I don't think the game against Bethune-Cookman was a bit of an outlier. I think as the other teams in their division, they're going to start to kind of dial in that offense. So I'd really have a Dawn pick because I don't think 0-1 teams are going to be in the top 3. I would say if it was going to pick someone from the Dusk to make a run at it, I would pick either Chatty or Nut.
That's a really good point that I had not thought about. Were personal life distractions, and it's led me to agree with you there. Chattanooga has a chance there, along with Turk. I'm really a big believer in ETSU, but like you said, I think that Chattanooga or Turk might be best primed to take the Dusk with an 0-1 record. And as far as the Dawn, I don't know if I could pick. I'm right with you, Slolo, on the Mercer is criminally underrated train, but I also believe Jacksonville can take it. I have a soft spot for 0-3 teams being won once before, so it's just such a tough decision. But I guess I'll leave it to everyone else.
Yeah, I like Nut here as well. He played Florida A&M super tight. Playing a Dawn team that well bodes well for your Dusk opponents this year. I think in the Dusk, Nut has a really solid opportunity to make a move and really solidify a run at the conference championship game. I don't necessarily know if Jacksonville will make a run for the conference championship game, but I think that he might have impact on. I think he might be a trap game for a team or two, and that might alter the race for these powerhouse teams atop the division. I don't know if he's going to make the championship game, but I think that one or two of those 5 teams might overlook him looking forward to the next game or something and slip up. And I think he can have an effect that way. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Moving along, we can check out the power rankings this week from voted on by the coaches. I can run through these. So the top 5, you have the 5 powerhouses in the Dawn. Bethune-Cookman securing 7 of the 9 first place votes. Then Kennesaw State getting a first place vote, and Stetson getting a first place vote. Those are your top 3. Campbell at 4, Florida A&M at 5, Sanford at 6, Nut and ETSU at 7. It should be noted that in the top 4, they're only separated by about 21 coach points. So those 5 teams really, you're going to see a lot of movement, especially after this week. 8, you got Chatty. 9, Mercer. 10, Alabama A&M. 11, Jacksonville State. 12, Alabama State. A little underrated. 2-1 at number 12. 13, you got North Alabama, and 14, you have Jacksonville. Were you guys surprised by any of the results you saw here in Power Rankings this week?
No, not really. There were a couple of placements. Alabama State was the most glaring one. Alabama A&M and Jacksonville State have the clout from last season as being division contenders, but I wasn't sure that was going to take precedence over Alabama State's 2-1 start. So that's been the biggest surprise to me. But other than that, everything looks about the same. You can't take too much from this. It's early season, and it's a fun experiment to see where our collective heads are at. But yeah, I feel like it's mostly correct.
So I had Alabama State above State, and I also had Mercer all the way to 6. I will say I was the one first place vote for Kennesaw State. I think you earned the first spot last season by winning the conference, and you haven't done anything. So I'm keeping you there right now.
Yeah.
But I had myself at 3, so I'm obviously a little higher on myself than everybody else is. But looking at looking at all the standing stuff, I see why. I see why everybody has me down as the 5th best. But yeah, I just think Mercer is still. I have him at 6. And yeah, it's just other than that, it's fine. I'd have Alabama State up, but Mercer is the big problem.
Yeah, it's Mercer. So strange. I'm looking at like history here. They started 7th, proceeded to win 2 games, dropped to 8th, and lost a game and dropped to 9th. So I don't know that we just don't know what to do with them. Samford was 3rd last week and Stetson was 6th, and they just switched places. So that was a pretty big change. And Alabama A&M was 2nd, went all the way down to 12, and then has climbed slowly back up to 10. So I think that it's kind of still early in the season syndrome, and we're just kind of, I think once we start playing more conference games by week 7, we'll know better. We'll have 3 conference games under our belt, and we'll be able to start to see which teams are truly kind of separating themselves. Or it'll just be carnage.
Self-cannibalization.
Yeah, we really
actually
don't have too much to go off of. That's all I was going to say. We don't have too much to go off of with this.
Definitely.
2 undefeated teams are guaranteed to lose this week. So that will be. We'll be at least down. Well, we'll have at most 3 after this week. Probably 2. There's a good chance I'll lose to Mercer. So. About to be a bloodbath.
Yeah, two teams that were in my ranking that were a little bit different than the final ranking. I had Sanford actually. Actually, I had him at 11. I was not. I think the Stetson was a statement win. I really want to see how he bounces back this week. And then I also had Northern Alabama a little bit higher at 9. So I made the mistake for putting me at Northern Alabama over Sanford. But I think that could just be the bump that Wally needs to get going. I can't overstate how important early win in your career as a coach. Getting on the right track from the start can be really helpful in your coaching tenure. So those are 2 teams I want to keep an eye on this week. Northern Alabama in the game of the week versus Chatty, and then Sanford in his game versus me. I think those are 2 teams, different ends of the pendulum swing, who are looking to right the ship or continue their momentum. So keep an eye on both those 2 teams. All right, next we can move into the ASUN Player of the Week. Finally, not a Chattanooga player. This week it was Earl Campbell, running back, number 35, 26 carries, 277 rushing yards, 4 touchdowns, and a reception for 8 yards. Pivotal in their win versus Alabama State. Campbell, I'll let you kind of touch on this. He really just went off. 277 yards is a beast of a stat. What got him playing so well this week?
I honestly, he had 223 yards coming into the day and 4 touchdowns, and so for him to have 277 yards and another 4 touchdowns really shows you the impact he had on this game. But when you have Campbell handing off to Campbell and Campbell blocking for Campbell, you really get a lot of synergy going, and Campbell's kind of unstoppable out there. But we run a lot of shotgun set here this year. We started out in the option year 1, and I kind of reevaluated my personnel, and talking with the biology department and what we had going on this year, I felt like shotgun was a good fit for us. So we do a lot of sweeps and pitch outs and pick option. Now I don't want to give away too much, but Earl really found the you can see it's not like he was. I'm trying to figure out what his yards per. I know his yards per carry. Give me 1 second. He had over 10 yards per carry, so it wasn't like it was a ground and pound. Just trying to wear down the clock. He was getting out there and letting him run. Getting away from the cop speed or something like that. So it was just, I don't know. It was one of those days we were finding the holes in the defense, and then he was taking advantage of it.
Yeah, that is impressive considering the ageless wonder. He has no pass. So decided to.
This man's name is Earl Campbell. This is not Earl Campbell. So
commonly confused. He looks very similar to Earl Campbell, actually.
That's the biology department said that was a coincidence.
But yeah, hats off to Earl Campbell. Glad to see you take the crown from Chatty in this department, and would love to see another Campbell get a Player of the Week in the weeks to come. Next segment we have Sunny D. This particular week was tough. There was a lot of good teams that made this defenses kind of made statement plays. A late addition as well was Jacksonville. Originally we had Bethune-Cookman. We had Bethune-Cookman, Stetson, and Campbell. All three of your defense, including Jacksonville and then UNA's as well, had statement stops and key plays that were at the game. At the end of the day, based off of the winning from the conference, Bethune-Cookman walked away with this win for Sunday this week. Overall, just smothering on defense. It seems like every week we see Pella play, he has another additional strategy on how to win the game. Sometimes he just pulverizes you on offense. Sometimes walks away with 2 kickoff returns on special teams, and then this week it happened to be defense. Holding Chatty to under 100 yards passing, rushing, forcing 3 turnovers, just smothering him in time of possession. All around, just great performance by the defense here. Bethune-Cookman gets a Sunny D. Enjoy that piping OJ Pella. Do you guys have any thoughts?
Yeah, it really should have been 3 points allowed. But I'll leave that. I'll leave that from discussion. It was smothering. Very impressive. Get that stuff bowling.
Not there in Daytona.
Yeah, good showing for Pello. And
So
Like
what? Oh yeah. Yeah, just dominating on defense and got the job done. Good job.
Enjoy. Drink up, brother.
Slurp.
All right, so
and this is why my defense sucks.
you'll get hot orange juice.
We'll move right along into the Week 4 preview and pick'em. Starting off with the game of the week, Chattanooga versus North Alabama. There's a lot of high-profile games this week, but I'm glad that the conference, I should say, chose to focus on a not as necessarily high-profile game for a couple of different reasons. I think one of the 2 top 10 games is going to be highlighted as the FCS game, but also because I just like seeing other teams get highlighted. This particular game, I'm just going to go with my pick first. I like UNA. I mentioned before, the pendulum is swinging in the right. Chatty coming off a tough loss to Pello. It'd be interesting to see how he rebounds from that game. Doesn't let the season get away from him too much. With a win here would be big, a loss here would be equally as big for him. UNA has a lead in the division right now. If he could extend a team like Chattanooga, that would work wonders for him and the rest of the division as well. Chatty is looking to be a pest for all Dusk teams this year, and he can very well make a run if the cards fall into place. I like UNA here. I like it. It's going to be a close game, I think. But like within a 1-score game. Give me UNA here.
Yeah, I'll make my pick. I'll make my pick shortly, but as co-commissioners, Sanford and I want the people to dictate what comes to the forefront, and the people decided that this is going to be the game of the week, and I'm excited to showcase Chattanooga and North Alabama, even though there were other matchups that may be more highly touted. This is going to be a pivotal divisional matchup in the dusk. Give me North Alabama. I think they're rolling here. They've got some momentum going, and I think they'll come out on top.
I am picking Chattanooga just because I think Wally is on a little bit of a hot streak. They won the second half of their second game. They obviously sneaked it away against Purple after that turnover. I think Chattanooga is going to be a little fired up coming out here in the fourth game of the year. And I think they win by 4. I don't think they win by even a touchdown. But I think there's some shenanigans with the extra points or something, and it ends up being a 4-point game.
I got the bounce back game for Chatty. I think. I mean, it's not gonna literally end the season if he loses here, but it's gonna really set him back. So I think it's as close as a must-win game as it can get this early in the season for him. So I think he comes full force and pulls out the win here.
Yeah, let's not. I don't mean to sleep on Chatty's. They were extremely explosive in the first 2 weeks of the season. Let's see if Brian Markson can make a run back to ASUN player. Next game is my game versus Sanford. I'm going to add some voting in this game. This game last year had ASUN North implications for the conference championship game after I lost to Matt. The winner of this game last season would have gone to the ASUN championship game, I believe. So yeah, I will abstain from voting on this one.
I'll take it from there. This is where it really gets fun. We're getting into the state belts. This is a preliminary Bama belt matchup, and I think Sanford is a decent team, but I think you showed a lot last week when you were able to take care of business against Mercer ampersand, and I'm going to go with Alabama A&M. You started out 0-2 last season. I think there's something there, and I think the Maroon Bulldogs will take care of business over the Blue Bulldogs.
It's a dog-eat-dog world out there, and I think Alabama and A&M walks away with this one. I don't think it's as big of a deficit as it was last season. It was a 19-point game. I think it's only about 14 points. I think 2 touchdowns, maybe less. Still think A&M, and just to win their first Bama belt game and put themselves in the driver's seat for an early lead in the dusk.
I'm a little bit torn, but I think I'm gonna bring out the brooms. I got Alabama A&M as well. It's definitely gonna be a tough one for both teams, but it's kind of tough. You guys have to play each other this early in the season, but I think you'll pull it out. Sanford will be in. Sanford might be in 0. So that will be tough for him to try and pull himself out of. But I don't think it's. I don't think he's got this one. I'm gonna take Alabama A&M.
Last 2 times that you guys chose me, I lost. So it's not looking good. Not saying much, but it's saying enough. So send some prayers up this week for my team. Next, we have Alabama at Jacksonville State. Matt's return to Jacksonville. It might be a tune-up game for him. Might see if he can shake the little bit after his leave of absence. But as we know, Alabama State can hang with the best of them. after their win versus Stetson last week, and they're 2 out of conference wins this year. But I think Matt pulls a couple tricks out of his hat and walks away with a win here. These are two of the older coaches in the A-Sun quietly, and this will be a fun game to watch. So they've been around for a little while, but I think Matt walks away, and I think he wins by 10 points.
Yeah, I think this will be a close game. I think most of these games will be close games, but I just have trouble going against my gut, and my gut tells me Matt at JSU. So that's where I'm going. I think the Gamecocks will win. It'll probably be close, but I'm going with them.
I do think this is a return of the Matt. He's back up in the game, running things to keep his swing, letting all the people know he's back to run the show because what Kennesaw did last week was wrong, and listen carefully while he sings his comeback song. So Jacksonville State all the way.
Oh, that's good.
Well, I thought about bringing up the brooms. Last week I said I'd ride the Turk train. And just like Anson, I'll be thrown off a little rust after being out for a month. So I think Turk gets some this one time as he comes back. But I wouldn't be surprised if Matt pulls it out. I just think I'm gonna ride Turk train for now.
I think if Turk was able to pull this one off, it might be one of the first in recent memory in the A-Sun that a 2-1 team would be upsetting a 1-2 team, which I think is awesome. That would be, I think that would be crazy. That'd be chaotic, just chaotic energy.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. Next game we have Bethune-Cookman, Campbell, 2 top 5 teams. Probably nationally spotlighted game. Gosh, this one is tough. I've never had the opportunity to Pella, but my game versus Campbell last year was high scoring, back and forth. It's really tough to. These are 2 tenured coaches as well. Campbell seems to be able to pull out the stops that he needs to when he. But I don't know. Pella's just been playing so great this year. I think this game is very close. This game gives me reminiscence of the Bethune-Cookman Florida A&M game last year. High scoring, overtime type game. Don't want to take any years off of Humpy's life, but I think this might be one of those types of games. I think it's a game that comes down to whoever has the ball last to win the game. Like I said, 2 very stout offenses. I think Pella pulls it out, but it's going to be very close.
Cool. This is going to be a great showcase for the A-Sun. Should have a lot of eyes on it. I've said before on this program that I never ever pick against Pella at Bethune-Cookman, but I might have to change that this week. We've seen so far this season some high-flying offense, miraculous comeback from the Camels, and after 2 weeks of just barely missing the playoffs, like Teeny has so often joked, I think it's time for the Camels to get over the hump. So,
Boo.
Okay, Dad.
I am going against my better judgment. I'm going to pick Campbell to defeat BCU.
Could be the team of destiny.
I'm not going to pick this game, but I will say that last time Bethune-Cookman lost in the regular season was Campbell in overtime at home. They missed a field goal on the first possession, and then Campbell scored. So there's a lot of history here just with the last season, and the coaches know each other pretty well, at least in the conference channel. And I have some insider information. It's probably not going to be FCS Game of the Week, but it'll be like on Fox. It'll be on Fox at 7 instead of on ABC. So
there will be plenty of eyes. There will be plenty of eyes watching it.
Oh yeah.
any options to watch this game if you want to stream it. I think our CFB streams is down, but there's might be a Discord you can find a link to it in. So
Hey, any chance I get to listen to Gus Johnson? That's great. Okay.
all right, Solo, go ahead.
Campbell just gave me something else to think about. I was thinking about, but now do I think how motivated is Pello going to be to get revenge? Well, from my revenge game experience, revenge games don't work, so I'm going to stick with Campbell. And by that I mean I absolutely failed against Jocks when I tried to get revenge last season. So, but yeah, it's going to be a great game. Bethune-Cookman has been in position before, starting off really hot. I think his first loss comes a little earlier in the season this year. Though I'm fairly sure I said that last week, and he came out and proved me wrong. So, yeah, but I will bet him against him again this week. If he wins this week, I probably won't bet against him next week or the rest of the season. So, but yeah,
All right. I'm not sure what happened. We can move on to the next. Jacksonville versus East Tennessee State. Even their, I guess, Purple's continuing his run versus new coaches in the ASUN. Say what you want about Nutt and his transition, but he's been impressive. I know he had a tough loss last week, but he's been impressive. He still is he was my dark horse at the beginning of the year. Dark horse. I think it's going to be another close game. I think he really flexes the option in this game and utilizes that to his advantage. He's going to rack up a bunch of rushing yards this game. I think limits the turnovers and controls that time possession. And I think he wins this game.
I think the Buccaneers from Johnson City, Tennessee, they'll be a factor this season in ASUN, especially in the dusk. I think Nutt's a great coach, but I continue to pick Jacksonville. I'm going to keep betting that hand until I go broke. Like I said earlier, I believe scrimmages really do work as a confidence booster, and it's got to happen. I'm picking Jacksonville.
This is the last cross-division game for both teams, so it's kind of another buffer game like we talked about earlier, but at the same time, those fins in the water, they're not sharks, but they can smell a win for sure. I think Dolphins take out the Buccaneers in purple. Just something about that scrimmage against Youngstown. Bernie's not the type of guy that just casually does anything unless it's golfing. So I think Jacksonville kind of got a lot of confidence, a lot more exposure to how the game works, and I think they get the win this week.
I very much hope I'm wrong, but I gotta go ETSU. From my experience with him this past week, he's a really good coach, and while I hope Purple gets the win, I don't see it this week. I think Nutt pulls it out. Hopefully Jacksonville can get next week in out conference. Or I'm still hoping he can beat Nutt. I just don't see it personally. So yeah. Since I'm not voting on my own game, I'll give a quick preview, I guess. Mercer beat me last season 31-28 with a touchdown in the fourth quarter to pull it out. We both start off good. Should be a good game. He beat me last season. So we'll see if I can get him back.
Yeah, so I had played Mercer this past week, and I really didn't think that I had the game in hand until the final first down that I needed to just nail the ball out in the last minute or so. Like I said, Rico is a wizard, and like I really do hope I'm wrong, because I do think that Slow. I do think you have the capacity to really rock the world in a revenge game like this. I think Mercer takes the win here, but I really do want to eat my words on this one. I think there's something to be said about revenge games. I know you said that they don't work. I think they can work this time, but I still think I'm going to take Mercer here.
Yeah, I'm going to follow along in that reasoning. I think Mercer's going to take it. I'm going to use Slolo's line about criminally underrated. Mercer's one of those teams that I just feel like is going to win more games than not. Florida A&M, you've had a great run. I think you're still going to have a great season. I'm going to go with Mercer here. I think his willingness to take time between plays and to really calculate bodes well for him, and that it'll lead him to a win. So I'm taking Mercer.
I am going with the Rattlers. I think they bite the Bears this week. Jordan A&M, people forget they pitched a shutout in their first game ever as a coach. They beat Jacksonville State during a 10-win season for Jacksonville. They boat raced Alabama State. They beat Samford and Bethune-Cookman. Solid seasons last year, and they're 3-0 this season. So I've got A&M winning this one. I just think I think Mercer is I think it'll be another heart racer for Slolo. He'll be sweating it out, but I do think that as long as he doesn't yell it one too many times, he will be able to get a win.
I will just like to say I am perfectly capable of yelling it.
But then getting the outside afterward.
Yeah.
All right, and then the last game, another powerhouse game between potentially two top 10 or two top 5 teams. Kennesaw State versus. This is one of the most anticipated games that I think we'll see all season, especially in the dawn. I have no doubt that whoever wins this game is firmly in the driver's seat. Well, I guess in the co-driver's seat, because there's the Campbell Bethune-Cookman game. But the winner of this game supplants themselves definitely in the top 2 in the division, and probably in the top 2 in the nation. I think the winner of this Bethune-Cookman Campbell game and the winner of this KSU Stetson game, those 2 teams will be the top 2 teams that come next week, setting themselves up for a game of the century, if you will, later on. I have the unfortunate of played Joe, and you guys all know how that went. Even when he's down, he is not out. He was down by a couple scores in the conference championship game, and did not deter him. He's playing an offense in Stetson where if you get down, but I think I told Judge this for the show. I think his back one of the best quarterbacks in the country, and he's been criminally underrated as far as player of the week. Andrew Van Buren can really sling the ball and can really find different ways to score, running and throwing. So I think KSU wins here, and probably the biggest win in their program history.
Yeah, I'm not picking on this game, but I'll give some background to this game. Last season, Stetson had coordinators. It was during that phase with JoJo and Hat splitting the duties there. It wasn't very active. I came away with a 37-7 win that did not finish by the deadline. So I can't say that I really have a read on how this is going to go. Like most games this season, I'm going to be terrified. And I know what the Hatters did to Samford last week, and I hope that does not happen to me.
Yeah, I think your one saving grace is that you're not a religious school. To be the pattern so far with Stetson, but I just She really surprised me 2 weeks ago, and she was so analytical. Like I was not expecting that level of detail.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's going to carry over. I mean, waffle stomping Stanford. We didn't talk about this when we were talking about results from last week, but to go from scoring 100 points to scoring 17 and feeling, I know Stanford was in the chat just feeling like they couldn't do anything. He has to be missing nut right about now as he prepares for his game against Ampersand. But just think Stetson gets this win. I don't think it's quite a. I think it's another week 2 score where it's a 3-point or a 1-point or a last second field goal. Or I'd say even overtime for this one. But yeah, I'm going with the Hatters. I'm hanging my hat on Stetson.
Good one.
I guess I get to decide the tie. I don't know. I think I'm gonna go Stetson. I think just absolutely wrecking Stanford. Should give you a good amount of momentum. Though I thought Stanford's momentum was going to last more than one game, so I guess I might be a little wrong on that. But I'm gonna go Stetson. I think she pulls it out this week, and yeah, I don't know much else to say.
All right. Yeah. Well, we have an awesome feast of games this week. I'm excited to see what they actually. But it's been a great week where we all just destroy each other first play. Awesome. Well, that's all that I have, guys. Campbell, thank you for coming on. I don't know if you have anything else you wanted to add before we sign off here, but thank you guys for another great show.
Yeah, this is really fun. I've really been enjoying Shiner Shade too on Wednesdays. I think getting league, overall is really good and kind of gets people involved. And so I've enjoyed this conversation we've had. I love the ASUN, and I'm not going anywhere unless they change geography or something.
What state are you in again?
I'm in one of the Carolinas. It's an anomaly that has yet to be rectified, but until that point in time, I'm a lone wolf, a camel with one hump.
One hump.
Awesome. Sweet. Well, thank you guys. Look forward to doing this next week. Good luck in your games this week.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. See you later.
See you guys. Thanks.
See you guys.